The bomb was made of 6 small vials of ammonium sulfide, a mixture beloved by generations of pranksters for its powerful stench of rotten eggs. The funny thing is that at the moment I hurled those vials at the blackboard, I was just as surprised as the other students by the loud noise of shattering glass and by how thoroughly the air filled with the stink. One day, I pushed my little sister Kim out of a second-story window to see if she could fly. The backstory was, I was already sick and tired of hearing how she was Mommy's precious angel sent from heaven. I'd learned about real angels at church, which I guess helps explain the irresistible impulse that took hold of me one afternoon when my mother was busy cooking dinner. By only just a few inches, Kim missed hitting the concrete pavement below. Instead, she landed in the shrubbery, scratched but intact. I'd never before met the driver of the rust-colored car, a dark-haired man about my dad's age. Nor was I angry about anything in particular. Throwing the rock just seemed like the thing to do. I thought it would be funny. I suppose I was desperately seeking stimulation. I was also the kind of kid who, even after I realized something wasn't that great of an idea after all, had a lot of trouble putting on the brakes. By 6th grade, I'd lost all my former friends. Kids teased me and teachers nagged me, complaining that I was disruptive and wouldn't follow instructions. From my point of view, my behavior was easy to understand. I was simply reacting reasonably to what I perceived as other people being mean to me, and of course, the worse I behaved, the meaner they all were. Here's how it went down. My English teacher, whom I'll call Mr. Meany, had offered a giant Snickers bar to the student who wrote the best poem. I wanted him to like me, and I felt this was my big chance. I'd been writing poems for years, filling up notebooks I occasionally showed to my mother and grandmother. I turned the poem in on time and even bragged to the other kids in class that I was sure I was going to win. But when the teacher handed back the poems a few days later, I had gotten an F. Until then, I'd been told so often that my failures were caused because of my lack of trying, but now I had tried and I had been robbed. Before my 17th birthday, a constellation of events that had little to do with me, specifically, ended up changing my context, which, in turn, changed me. My dad's new salary would pay for a much nicer house for us, and I'd be going to a new school. I resolved to be opposite Todd. Instead of saying, "What's up, jerk," I'd start saying, "What's up, stud," and always greet with a smile. This brought a revelation. People like to be complimented. I started turning into a different person, a person kids actually liked. The Commons, as it was understood throughout the whole school that if you didn't fit in, you couldn't hang out there. The elite group that I was so delighted to have joined sat and stood on the chairs. One of the fiercest of these watchmen was named Blake, a talented basketball player who happened to be one of my new friends. And once again, I followed the strategy I learned. I'd pass to him as often as I could, rather than hogging the ball, and I'd always done that before then. Once a kid starts to build up his self-esteem, as I was slowly doing at Layton High, it can lead to a lot of collateral progress. This was the first time in my life I started to show more empathy towards other kids. Scooter was a sophomore at Layton High whose dream was a seat in the Commons. A few punks beat up Scooter a couple times. Taco Bell was their hangout, and they'd warned Scooter that they'd send him to the hospital if he ever set foot there. This situation cut way too close to home for me. "We are going to Taco Bell, and I'm going to make sure nobody messes with you," I told Scooter. From that day on, Scooter felt safe at school and went to Taco Bell whenever he felt like it. Although my social life skyrocketed, my educational life struggled. I had a .09 grade point average for the semester and a 1.5 cumulative average for my junior and senior year. There was no way I was going to graduate, and I dropped out of high school. After high school, I got a minimum wage job to support my wife and I, who was pregnant. She was the one that pushed me to apply to Harvard, and she was right. I got in. Everything was going well until my first grade on my first paper was a C+. At Harvard, a C+ is considered a failing grade. In order to stay focused in school, I decided to start taking my Ritalin again. To keep track of my mistakes, I wrote them down in a journal, which I called the Dope Journal. This helped me with self-reflection. Through all my experiences, I learned that square pegs are more than just troublemakers in school. I want to help square pegs just like me because, after all, I'm still the same person.